Hey everybody, this is Joel coming to you from my hot pink bedroom with the big black polka dots, and this is the weekly Dryden update meeting for July the 25th, 2015. We had a little trouble getting started this morning, and so we're still trying to patch a few folks in. And let me see if I can get one of those right now. He says he's switching laptops. Let me make sure he's got the right address. So we've got quite a few folks joining us here today. We've got Damian Roach, we've got Don Van Osdal, we've got Eugene Kelly and Tracy Vincent, and hopefully we'll have a couple of new folks joining us from Manhattan here in a few minutes. Let's start, since we've got several Rise of the European people with us. And Tim, are you back with us? Once again, I see your lips move and I don't hear a sound. All right. And Tracy reports that I told everybody that it's in the morning. Tim, feel free to... Thank you, everyone. Oh, I said just now that it's morning time and not nighttime. Okay. Yeah. Well, Tim, I'll tell you what. We're excited to have you joining us here today, and well, he's working on something. Let's just be patient for a moment while he sorts out what's going on with his rig there. Have you got audio now? Right on. Okay. Tim, if you can't see the chat window, you've got a little icon over on the left in the menu bar that you can open up that will pull a chat icon out, and feel free to participate in the conversation that way. The first time that Damian joined us, he was having microphone problems as well, and participated in the conversation via the microphone. I'm going to take one more look and see if Chelsea hasn't sent us a message. Tim, do you know Chelsea? Do you know if she's still trying to get in? And we'll wait and see if Tim's got an answer to that. No idea. All right, very good, fair enough. She was looking for a laptop, I think, and so maybe she'll come in here in a few minutes. So just to give a really quick introduction to the Dryden experiment, we're a Creative Commons publishing concept, I think, is you'd have to call us the idea at this point, because we've morphed into a whole lot of different things. And the idea is that by working cooperatively, we, the artists, can keep control of the materials that we create and create publishing opportunities for ourselves without having to sit around and wait for a corporation or a company or an agent or whoever to buy our material. And all the conversation that you're going to hear tonight and everything that's said and done here is just folks who met on the internet, who shared that same vision and idea, and all the projects that we're going to talk about are projects that are going to be talked about, or that have grown out of this idea that we can work together cooperatively. So there's the 1 minute description of the Dryden experiment. Since Tim is with us tonight, let's go ahead and start with Big Damn Dryden, which is the role-playing game set in the Dryden science fiction universe. We have several genre of fiction, and the one we're going to be playing in tomorrow night in Manhattan, Kansas is the science fiction universe. So, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and just say, if you have any questions, please feel free to fire away, and let you type while I go, and then we'll see if we can get your questions answered. So, what happened with Big Damn Dryden is that we wanted to develop a role-playing game to go with the science fiction universe that we have created. It's a very big at this point universe that covers many thousands of years of the future, and we thought it would be a great place to role play. This company out of Australia, I put out just some feelers saying we were interested in a role playing game. And this company out of Australia, which is Owlman Press, responded, and they said that they already had a working science fiction role-playing game that they felt like could be adapted to the Dryden universe. Nick Mall is the owner, and Nick is great to work with. He was going to join us here this evening and then begged out at the last minute. I think he had children issues that tied him up. So Nick took his rule set and began adapting it to our universe, and we started this really great back and forth. He's read almost everything that's been written in the science fiction universe at this point, at least everything that's written in the first few hundred years into the future, which is when Big Damn Dryden takes place. And he kind of singled out the corporations. We have a lot of corporations that run in the science fiction sort of hard sci-fi future, and they're everything that you would expect from evil corporate entities, very much sort of a Blade Runner kind of feel. And he's designed a role-playing environment where you play sort of the corporate hitmen, the corporate goons, the guys who take care of problems that the corporations don't want to deal with. And he's really gotten into those settings and environments, and he's built us a really fantastic game. Gavin Revitt is doing the art for the cover. We're still working on some interior art for it. We don't have all the interior art that we want, but we've reached the point at which it's playable. And so we're play testing. Tomorrow night we will be at Boom Comics in Manhattan, Kansas. I suppose I should look that address up, at 6:30, and we're going to be doing a play test. Tim, I believe, is going to be one of the players. Is that right? I think that Tony is going to game master, and you're going to play, and I'm going to bring pizza and kibitz. So it's going to be a great evening.
What's a kibitz?
Tim is actually going to be the GM. All right, very good. Kibitz is to offer comments from the side if people are trying to do something and somebody on the side keeps jumping in. They are kibitzing. Chelsea, welcome aboard. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Tim is with us. He's having some problems with his microphone, so he's chatting on the side. I don't know if you've got the chat bar opened over there.
Okay.
Chelsea is the designated person from Manhattan with a voice. I'm going to invite you to let us know your concerns, your questions, your thoughts about the gameplay session that's tomorrow night. The people that you see collected are from all across the Dryden experiment. In addition to the science fiction universe that we have placed under Creative Commons, we also have an apocalyptic, a steampunk, and soon to be also a horror environment that we've created under the same Creative Commons model. And so this evening's meeting is the chat amongst everyone. But the game tomorrow night is kind of the big deal on the top of the calendar. It's where we started talking. So why don't you tell me how you got involved, what your questions are, how we can make sure that tomorrow night goes well for you.
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all.
Absolutely.
I just so happened to stumble across a new comic book store and was needing some more Roll20 dice. And Tony asked me, he's like, hey, are you interested in beta testing this new game? And of course I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun.
Awesome.
So I just kind of came in. I don't actually know anybody. That's the first time I ever been to Tony's store.
Right
so
on.
I'm pretty new to all of this, which
Awesome.
is exciting. I did read through the material, and I think it's pretty solid, pretty awesome. It's nothing that I've ever played before. I usually play something not in space, so I'm really excited about space. I love space. Sci-fi is my thing.
Very
so,
cool.
I don't know if I have any questions yet. Maybe as the conversation goes, I'll get some questions.
Very
But
good.
I'm excited.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're only going to stay on tomorrow night's role-playing session for a couple of minutes, but you'll learn a lot of other things going on in the science fiction universe, and then a lot more about Dryden as a whole as we go on in the conversation. So welcome.
Awesome.
Tim, the one thing that I want to make sure before we go any further is that you have the practice module for tomorrow in your hands and all of the materials that you need. to get started tomorrow? Yes, I do. Okay, very good. I'm going to be down there. We're supposed to start at 6:30. Tim, would you like me to be down there at 6 to just kind of chat things out before we get started? Please. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll plan on being in Boom Comics by 6 o'clock tomorrow to make sure that you and I have a chance to sit down and talk it over. And then Chelsea, just coming back to you for a minute. The sort of the background is that we are a Creative Commons science fiction universe, as I mentioned before, a lot of other genre as well, but we're going to be playing in science fiction. The game that you're going to be playing tomorrow is actually a fusion of a game written by Owlman Press in Australia called Big Damn Sci-Fi, and our universe, which is the Dryden universe. So it's very cool, and everybody who participates in the playtest will be identified in the actual print and e-version of the book, so you will be recorded for all posterity, whatever that word is, for your participation, and we thank you very much. Yep, it playtested in Ballarat, Australia 10 days ago now, and so this will actually be the second playtest session, and if you guys like it and get involved and enjoy what you're doing, we would like to come back for a second and maybe even third round.
Awesome.
So, all right, awesome. So that's Big Damn Dryden. We'll be playing in Manhattan tomorrow. I'll be there at 6, and we'll plan to start around 6:30. And I understand that Pizza Shuttle is the common request for snacks. So I think I can get 2 liters of soda through them too. So we'll do that. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and I think that I'm probably going to let some other folks do more talking than I do here. There's an important event that happens in the future in our sci-fi universe that happens in the year 2600. So about 70 years, 80 years after present time for the Big Damn Dryden role-playing game, and that's when the single life form, the single intelligent life form underneath the seas of Europa that controls all of the other life forms, decides that it's had enough of humans and ejects them from the planet. And the way we're handling that event is that we are having a set of short stories written by all different authors, none of whom knew each other before this event started, and we have 4 of them here with us tonight, and so I'm just going to kind of turn the conversation over to the 4 of them and let them talk maybe just for 5 minutes or so about how Rise of the Europan is going. I do want to kind of ask you guys, we've got a lot of folks in here, kind of keep your comments a little bit short. We'll have the big Rise of the Europan meeting on Wednesday, but we have Damien, Don, Eugene, and Tracy, who are all participating authors in that story. So why don't one of you talk about how things are going?
As for me, to say, the work for, I'm just finishing up the work for my teaching semester, so starting tomorrow I'll have a lot more time to do writing. I've done a little bit of it so far. One thing is that I came up with a new scene today where it'll involve where the Europan, part of the Europan actually partially merges with some of the human technology and actually makes use of the technology, some of the generators and computer electronics, but sort of changes it to suit its own purpose.
Awesome. And Tim and Chelsea, Eugene is writing from the perspective. Eugene, did I say your name when I was listing the authors? I hope I did.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I identified it as this morning a few minutes ago. Is actually writing from the perspective of the Europan, a very dark sort of Cthulhu style approach. The other authors are writing from the human perspective, and Eugene is writing from the Europan. So it's kind of cool. We're having a lot of fun with that. And that fusioning of technology is actually really appropriate, Eugene. We know that in the year 40,000, when the Technoprey rise up and sort of take over the galaxy at the beginning of the dark, that the Europan uses human technology to build the Scourge, which then promptly kill most of the humans, which was not their intent, but we know that the Europan will cannibalize other technologies, so I think that's very appropriate. Don, how about you? How are things going with your story?
Real good. I did have. I think I might send Tracy a quick rewrite I'm working on that final scene.
Okay.
It occurred to me they probably need a insulating layer to protect the city since it's built in the ice. So
Right.
there's probably a vacuum layer around the outside, provide excellent insulation. It occurred to me when that gets superheated with the nuclear leak going into it, it could well end up loosening the city from the ice and actually launching the city because of the pressure from the deep.
So, go ahead.
That's an interesting idea.
For those of you who are new to the story, very early in the battle between the humans and the Europan on Europa, a human detonates one of the planet's nuclear reactors, and Don is talking about the effects of that because that's one of the pieces that he's writing. So we get in this battle, and this human gets very upset and blows up the nuclear reactor, and that's generally a pretty bad idea. So that's what we're talking about there.
I think that's a great idea, not a terrible idea. Some people just want to watch planets burn, and that's okay.
Chelsea, I think you're going to fit in just fine. Some people just like to watch planets burn. Yeah, that's okay. Very Dryden comment. Right on. Okay, we all like to watch planets burn now and again. Why not? Very good. Damien, how are you doing?
Doing all right. I haven't gotten too much further in the actual writing of my story, but I was following along with one of the email chains that popped up the other day, and I noticed that Dan was offering some information that I was thinking about some of the stuff he said, and it's sort of making me rethink some of the details, but it's actually a good thing because now that I have a little more information on that, I feel like I have a better grasp of what I'm doing now, and I'm still working on finishing that story of his that you sent out. I still haven't read all of Threshold, but I'm working on that. So once I've read that, then I feel like I'll really be in the right headspace.
Awesome.
Because I had some misconceptions from the beginning, about the number of units that would be there in terms of like the Marines versus the Geist Marines and things like that. And so
I was
trying
totally
to clarify all that stuff. And then aside from that, I haven't had the time yet, but I do want to keep working on that map that I was doing.
Okay.
'Cause I thought that was pretty cool, and I think, like I said, even if we don't do anything with it in terms of the publication, I feel like it's a good aid for us when we're working on the stories. So.
Awesome. So for those of you who are new again, Dan Hunt, who was one of the very first people who joined in on the Dryden experiment and has contributed some just fantastic material, invented the Geist Marines, who are owned by TerraCore, and they are the baddest of the bad. They are the most hyped up on junk. They have the most powerful armor. They are, individual tanks, sort of, especially if you've played MMOs. These are the guys that stand front and center and slug with everybody. Damien is writing about the Marines and their resistance to the Europan, I think mostly actually on the surface of the planet. And Dan's observation was that only a few of those would be Geist Marines. The majority would be conventional Marines. And I was with you, Damien. I had never really processed that thought, but I think Dan's point is really valid. When you look at Special Forces, there are only a couple of them that are SEAL Team 6, and they're the guys that you send when you just can't send anybody else. And so it seems appropriate that Geist Marines play a similar role. I sort of suspect it doesn't actually require a whole lot of change to your story to sort of go, these couple are the Geists and the rest are doing whatever the guys tell them to do because the guys are the badass. But I don't know. That's very much up to you. But yeah, I'd been meaning to ask you about that email chain because I was in the same place you were. Of course, they're guys Marines. Wouldn't you send your badass? And then I was like, no, not to some little moon of Jupiter. Why? So I thought his comments made a lot of sense. And Tracy, Tracy Vincent is the next person I'm going to ask to talk, actually works for me at Dryden House, which is the publishing company that we run on the side. All of the universes are Creative Commons and nobody owns them, but we provide publishing services for people who are publishing in universe and don't want to publish themselves. Quite a few people do publish themselves, and that's absolutely groovy, but if you don't want to, if you want somebody to help you with the promotion and the editing and so on and so forth, Tracy and Gavin Revitt and I provide services through Dryden House to support folks. And Tracy's also one of the authors on Rise of the Europa. Tracy, you want to talk about that project? And where your story is?
That very same email from Dan has made me do a lot of thinking.
Right on.
Dan, the man who's never in the chats, gives like 2 emails, and it's like, my gosh.
He is
on our ear.
He is on his way back to the United States now. So I think that sometime here in another 2 weeks or so, he's going to miraculously start appearing.
Yeah, but yeah, just figures. But anyhow, yeah, he's got me doing a lot of thinking, and I'm kind of, I don't really think that I want to make my character the go-between, though she very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still want her to stay where she is and then just kind of morph, where I was going to have her go to begin with.
Well, that's one of the things about the way we work cooperatively is Dan has some very good ideas and tells some very good stories, but in the end it's your story, and if you thought his comment was insightful but didn't motivate you to change your character...
Well, if I did it his way, I'd want to write a whole lot more, and it's not called for. So I think it's best I make it and end it, and right. Kind of give it a closure. Right. And so, it's like, dang, if I were really writing a book, that would be the way I'd go.
Well, you can come back to it later.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, but very good. Now, the one thing that I want to be sure and say, my wife's surgery is on Wednesday during the day, so I will not be at the Wednesday night meeting. I've asked Tracy to host that meeting, and I think she sent out the Google invite just a few minutes ago, didn't you, Tracy?
Yeah, I sent the event
awesome.
To everyone through the email, and then I put a link up in Facebook to the group just in case they didn't get the email.
Okay.
But it will not be recorded, so you will not see it.
Well, that's okay. That part of the coolness about Dryden is that people do whole projects that I don't know are out there. I didn't find out that Greta was publishing A Matter of Trust until she posted on Facebook that she had done it. So, you guys go ahead. I know you're going to do a great job, and we're a wide open creative environment. So. Be wide open and creative. So that meeting will happen on Wednesday night, but I will not participate because I'll have a just out of surgery wife and a 1-year-old in the house, and that's plenty without hosting Google Chats. All right, so that's the Rise of the Europan project. Then the other thing that I wanted to touch on, there's actually 2 things I want to touch on in the science fiction universe besides that. And that is that Eclipsing Osiris B and A Matter of Trust and Demon's Eye are all stories in the Dryden universe. 2 of them are already in print. Eclipsing Osiris B will soon be in print, that are self-published by other authors that didn't come through Dryden House, and I just want to make the comment that that's really, really cool. Those are all people that we've talked to, and we've talked about where in the universe they are and where they fit canon-wise, but we completely support that. We completely support those folks. I sent Greta an email this evening, as a matter of fact, who wrote Demon's Eye and A Matter of Trust, saying, have we helped you? Or are you doing all right? Have you seen a spike in your sales? How can we help you better? Because the Dryden Experiment is about the authors and everybody getting the best chance that they can, and the artists also. And so I just wanted to make sure and plug all three of those books. I think, Tim, that you read A Matter of Trust, didn't you say, this week? I've read, boy, 50 or 60 pages of it. I got distracted. Oh, very good. All right, very good. Greta, who wrote that. I'm sorry, Tracy, go ahead.
I read Demon's Eye.
Yeah, I read Demon's Eye, and I read maybe about a third of A Matter of Trust. I got distracted by some editing that I needed to do, but I'll get back to it. Greta is from the east coast of Australia. She's an independent author. She very much likes doing her own thing, but also likes the idea of working with other authors and likes having her material available under the Creative Commons. So when we talked to her, she asked for Galactic Cluster, is it M26, M20?
24.
M24, which is out on the edge of the galaxy. It's got a couple thousand stars in it. And she said, I want my universe out there. And we said, okay. And we didn't realize that we'd be getting whole novels that she had already written, just sort of migrated into our universe. But it's very badass, and we're really excited about that. And for those of you who have read her work or are interested in her work, that material is all under Creative Commons now. Feel free to riff on it. Feel free to grow it. It's set 20,000 years in the future, so it's way past the time period that Big Damn Dryden is targeted at, but I think that eventually Big Damn Dryden will come to encompass the entire science fiction universe. So I just wanted to make sure and plug those. Eclipsing of Cyrus C, which is Dan's novel. I saw the proof several weeks ago, so we should be getting close to print. Just any day, but it hasn't happened yet. Then the other book that I wanted to talk about, we have a collection of art that was done by Joel Bewley a couple of years ago, and we lost the rights to the story for it. I was really new at it, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. And so I just have 80 images, or 70 images, I'm not sure how many images that I have, that were meant to be a graphic novel, and I don't have a story for them. Well, Laura Conrad, who I'm going to have Tracy talk about here in a minute, is one of the authors that we really enjoy working with. She was the author behind Sky Goddesses of Dryden Volumes 1 through 4, which was a graphic short story set. And I just got this crazy hair like in the shower the other day that I should just give those images to Laura and have her write a story for them, which seems entirely backwards. But I suggested it to her, and she was like, yeah, that's great. So we have a story coming. I anticipate that it will be in the primer. It will be a graphic novel, and it will be by Laura Conrad, and the artist will be Joel Bewley. I spoke to Joel earlier in the week, and he was like, yeah, it'd be awesome to do something with that stuff. So hopefully we've picked up a new graphic novel this week. Isn't that exciting? And Tracy will be the editor for that project. So more great work coming from Tracy also, applying her voodoo as we get closer. And speaking of Tracy's voodoo, we're going to switch universes.
Different universe.
Yeah, well, let's make sure. Does anybody have any questions while we're still in the science fiction universe? I know for the two of you who are new, it's a big universe, and we've got a lot of content in it, and it does take some getting used to. I'm happy to send people stories or materials. The role-playing rules are actually a pretty good way to get familiar with the universe especially as it develops and we get more sort of short fiction material inserted into it. But I just want to make sure I don't have any other questions about science fiction before
I've got one. This is just a general. This can apply to any of the Dryden.
Okay.
You know, if we allow, you know, if I have something published and you guys do the promotion, and separate from you guys, am I allowed to do my own promotion just by myself?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, what happens when we go under contract, Eugene, is if somebody just publishes and they publish on their own, that's totally cool. And we cross-promote and we email and so on and so forth. If we put you under contract, you actually still own it. We reserve the right to publish it, and in exchange for that, you get the kind of fancy flyers, like if you've seen the Lorelei You'll Never Die flyers, and the ARC copies, which are the advanced reader copies. Those sort of goodies come when we're under contract. And if you continue to promote, that's actually fabulous, because we all want more sales, right? That helps everybody. What you need to be aware of is that all of the revenue that comes in will go through the revenue split that's on the contract. whatever revenue split we've agreed to. So, you know, if you go out there and spend $1 million on an advertising campaign, Tracy and I are going to be really happy, because when the book sales come back, we're still going to keep our split that was on that contract. So you just need to be aware that you're in the boat with us for that publication. Now, if you take that book and you want to republish it somewhere else, you can actually still do that because you still own it. But what you need to be very careful of is the point at which you leave our publication and start a new one. And that's something that we just need to talk through. We support artists who want to do that. We support authors who want to do that. But we need to make it kind of a clear line, because the version that you put up with us will stay in market, and it will stay under contract with us. And it can get a little funky. Whose version are we talking about here? Because if you go to another publishing house, they're going to want to do advertising, and they're going to want to take our version down, and we may or may not be in a place to do that. So the only thing you've got to watch out for going forward is to be aware that we still take out of the contract, and that if you decide to go somewhere else with it, you should have a conversation with us about how that happens. Because we're going to support you, but we do need to be a little careful. Can we make a black market for freelancers? Tim, I think you're going to do just great. I think you're going to fit in too. I think we got the right kind of peeps. Yeah, sort of. You know, very, very much at the heart of what we do, Tim, is this idea that we all have these tremendous tools in our hands in terms of Twitter and Facebook and social media and 3D rendering software and video development software. All of the tools that we're using to make this Hangout happen, for example, are completely free. I didn't buy anything. Well, I bought a laptop that had the capability. And so we have a tremendous ability to get in the market. And all of us who are sitting around waiting for an agent to pick us up, or a publishing company to pick us up, or artists who are waiting to get on with, you know, Wingnut Films or whoever, we don't have to wait for that anymore. We can just go do it, right? The deal is that with 12 million books on Amazon, it's really hard to get attention if it's just you out there. Right, and so we work cooperatively. I promote Eugene's work. Eugene promotes Don's work. We all promote each other's work in this shared universe, because people will learn to love this universe like it was Star Wars. Except instead of giving George Lucas a $12 billion item to sell to Disney, all of us will still own our pieces. So absolutely, we're a black market for freelancers. We're all Han Solos out there, except we're like a fleet of Han Solos, right? We're not. When the Sony hack went down last year, one of the things that came out was that their CEO was making $2.1 million a year. Well, why? You know, she is totally dependent on graphic designers and artists and billboard painters and authors and cinematographers, none of whom make nearly that much money. Well, that's BS. We just don't need her anymore. You know, we're going to keep that 2.1 million. We're going to spread it around. We're going to have our own universe. You guys are fine, Sony. Go, you know, make kids movies or something that we're not interested in, because we're the black market of freelancers. Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, with my rant, I try to give that rant at least 3 times a day to make myself feel important. Did we have any other science fiction questions before we moved on? All right. And I just want to say, while I'm thinking about it, Dawn, that was just awesome when Chelsea came in and made her first comment, and you immediately said, "Welcome to the family," because we are. You know, you just come in and hang out with us. People say the most shocking things in this group, and we all just go, "Yeah, well, that's the creative type." And so we're really open and really accepting. Okay, so the second universe that I want to talk about is just very recently launched. We wanted to do an apocalypse setting. We wanted to be able to tell Mad Max kind of stories, and desert wasteland and post-apocalypse nightmare. And so we started that universe, but unlike the science fiction universe where I wrote the backstory because I was the only person involved at the time, I didn't write any backstory for APOC. We just launched it, and Laura Conrad had a collection of short stories set in an apocalypse that were perfect, and so we bought rights to them. And Tracy, why don't you just pick up before I end up telling the whole story and tell us what's going on with Laura's book?
Well, we just recently had the cover reveal on July 20th, and it went really well. And though we didn't have a whole lot of people sign up, we only had like 20 or so people sign up, which, I mean, I'm used to groups that are like 400 or 500 sign up. That was still really amazing because we picked up a lot of people that didn't sign up for it at all, and they were spreading word too. And so that was like, yes. And I've got people who are putting her cover as their Facebook profile picture, and so we're getting really good coverage that way. I'm really, really happy about that. I just sent out yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. I think it was yesterday. I sent out the request if people want to sign up for the release day blitz of the book on August 20th. They can. It is also the request form for ARCs if you hadn't already signed up for one. The ARCs will be going out by August 5th, and that gives you 15 days to read the book and be able to put your review up on a retailer site and on Goodreads. And so I have those up. And I've already got, well, from the cover reveal, we've already got several people who've requested ARC. Awesome. And for people who don't know, ARC in blogger lingo stands for Advanced Reader Copy. Mm-hmm. And so there we are. And so I'm really excited. Also, Joel, before I forget, I just received an email from Laura about what we talked about earlier today. So when this is over, remind me to tell you what she had to say.
Okay.
All right.
We are doing last-minute edits on that book as we get close to publication date, and that's going back and forth. And the name of that book is Lorelei, You'll Never Die. It's really interesting. Okay, I put Laura in a giant question mark, Tracy, so later when I go, why did I put Laura in a giant question mark? That's me reminding you to remind me.
Sure.
To remind you. Sorry, I got a lot of things in my head. That book is really interesting because Laura started off with a collection of short stories that were maybe related, maybe not related, but were all post-apocalyptic.
Not related.
Okay.
She said they were not related.
And I'm going to turn that light off because I can't block it with my shoulder. I'll be right back.
I'll go on and say what he's going to say. They were completely unrelated stories, and he got them, and then he'd asked me if I wanted to work with him, and he said he would hand me his most promising author at this point in the game, and I said, okay. And so he hands me these stories, and they're completely, really wonderful stories. And so I'd sent her an email, and I said, so is this character in this story, because a lot of her stories are just I with no name, I was like, was this character the same as that character? And she said no. And I was like, why not? They read the same. And so that's where it started. And we took these collection of absolutely unrelated stories and created a book of short stories that are telling one big picture from Lorelei.
Okay.
And there's just this slight taste, just a slight taste of sort of magical realism. There's a couple of those stories that just can't quite be. It's got just a little bit of a dandelion wine feel to it, if any of you ever read Ray Bradbury. Because mostly she's telling this post-apocalypse story, but every once in a while it wanders off into this kind of surreal little world for a minute, and it's really enjoyable. I'm doing those very, very last-minute detail edits before we format it, and I'm having a hard time editing it because in spite of the fact that I've read it 4 times, I keep getting caught up in it. Especially I've said this to Tracy a lot, that climax just pulls me completely out of the fact that I'm editing.
Yeah, that's the reason why. That's the reason why I have to read it 2 times before I ever send it back to her, because I find myself reading it for pleasure and not reading it with a critical eye, and so then I'll go back and I'll actually read it out of order just so that I'm thrown out of it.
Right. So anyway, we're having a ton of fun getting Lorelei, You'll Never Die to print on August 20th. And I was going to say something else about it.
It will be available on Smashwords, Amazon, Kobo, iTunes. iTunes has it up for pre-order. It'll be on paperback and Kindle, or Kindle, both on Amazon. And
and then anywhere that you can order from the catalog on will have it available in print because it is registered with Bawker. So it might take as much as a month before it shows up, like in Barnes & Noble and Books USA and folks like that. But it will be searchable in all of those databases because it's on Bawker, and so they'll be able to order it.
Will, and this is a question I have for you specifically, will it be available on Amazon UK, Amazon Canada, Amazon Australia, or is it strictly Amazon just the United States?
My experience is that all of those pick it up. It'll show up on Amazon Japan.
Okay, rock on.
I don't know what it would take to actually get a copy to Japan. You'd probably have to pay $50 in shipping, unless they've got a printer out there that does that for them. But it will show up in that catalog, right? I have committed to Nick that I will get him a print copy of everything that we build in Big Damn Dryden if he can't get it off of Amazon Australia. Okay, so that's what's going on in the Apocalypse universe, and then if other folks are interested in writing, creating, drawing, doing anything in APOC, that universe is wide open. Laura doesn't identify the country that her story happens in, but it's sort of understood that it's the United States, and the character hikes across the U.S. I think the one character that gets identified by location gets identified as a Canadian, actually, which Laura is from Canada. But she didn't write in such a way that you couldn't pretty much come in anywhere else and start working. Absolutely, if you wanted to read her work and use that as your basis for your work, that would be cool. Or if you wanted to start somewhere else, I think we'd have a really easy time integrating integrating stories. We've certainly done some much more complicated integrating in Rise of the European, and as you can see, that's going very well. All right. Anything else about Dryden Apocalypse that I'm missing?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I just mostly want to talk about it to remember that it's there, is we also started a steampunk genre. We have two cities identified. One is 1880s in England. It's called Coalbridge. Mikey Vessa, say her first name for me, Tracy.
Maike
Vessa from Germany is doing the art for that city, and I'm writing short stories in it. K.A. Patterson has said that she's going to write short stories in it, but I haven't seen it. Absolutely go visit Dryden Steam out on the Facebook if you're interested in steampunk, and pick up anywhere you'd like to with stories and art. Then the other location that we have is Baden-Baden in 1910. Also by a German author, Anja Bagas, and Anja actually has 7 books printed in Germany in that setting, and she has loosely committed to putting all of them into English in our Creative Commons universe, and has definitely committed to one of them because I'm doing the translation for it.
Speaking of, I read that first chapter.
What did you think?
It was interesting.
Yeah? The pace is very different. I don't know if that's literary styles between Germany and English or just Anja's style, but I found the pacing to be different than what I would consider sort of
It's more blocky.
Okay.
That's the way I felt about it when I was reading it.
That could be my translation also.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
but she, because that book is coming from English or from German to English, it's actually going through this enormous process where we auto-translate it through Google, who totally slaughters it, and then I fix that into conventional English sentences, and then I send them back to Anja, who speaks good English, for sort of a confirmation edit, and then after that it goes to Tracy for sort of a conventional line edit. So those books are going to go through a long snake-like channel to get into production. But we love steampunk. We're behind steampunk. If you want to write steampunk, we have a whole world out there waiting to be explored and developed. We've got, American Southwest. We've got Indochina. We've got multiverse that needs to be explored in steampunk. Feel free to drop a line and get involved in that. And then just this week, we've had comments from Eugene and Damien that they would like to get involved in the Dryden Horror. Gentlemen, did we ever pick a date? Were we going to try to do a Tuesday? I don't know that we settled it.
As far as I know, we had not agreed upon anything.
No, I was thinking of sending out an email, but I kind of got distracted today.
Yeah, no worries. The only thing I'm trying to do is have as many meetings as I can before surgery day on Wednesday. So if we can, that's cool. If not, it'll still happen, but we may have to wait a week or so until my wife gets a little stronger and maybe try to time it during the day when the kid's at daycare or something. But I would like to kind of try to have a conversation with the three of you and anybody else who's interested in the horror genre, or three of us, just kind of structurally. How do we think horror would work? How would we welcome new authors? How would we handle time periods, things that appear to be incompatible? So I would like to have that conversation. I'm really excited to open horror. I think horror is a fun genre. Go ahead.
I say I got a lot of ideas and sort of. I think we can build upon it in the meeting, but I've got some ideas where on before this, but either the horror aspects of the horror could be things that could unite different Dryden universes together.
Maybe we can look at that. I've commented before that I'm not opposed to that bridging, but I want to make sure that the individual genres stand well on their own before we do. But I'm very interested in your sort of dark gods concept and the way that they might be a part of the underlying fabric of the universe, and then we would build more conventional human-looking structures over them. So anyway, that's an exciting conversation. I encourage anybody who's interested to get involved there. We'll have to set up a Facebook page and make it all official. So that is all of the things that I had said in Universe. I wanted to talk a little bit about Dryden business that's going on. Have I missed anything? Any books that are in production that we didn't talk about?
Alder's World.
Oh, there is that book, Alder's World.
Yeah,
Yes.
written by a guy named Joel Stottlemyre. My gosh.
I get to 11:30 at night completely at home in my room, and then I start working on Alder's World. That's what I'll be doing 2 hours from now. Okay, Alder's World Part 1 was released a while ago. And I'm at work on Part 2. The goal is to have Part 2 in press before the end of the year. I'm about 15,000 words into it, and I anticipate it being maybe a 40,000-word book. For me as a writer, there's a stage very often, I go through inspiration, and I get, a whole bunch of stuff down on paper, and then it kind of stalls out while I try to figure out what all that means. And then sometime later it picks back up, and I have now picked back up. I wrote 2,500 words the other day because I just hit this patch that had all been sorted out in my head, and it just all came out. And I wrote a little over 1,000 words last night. Again, a scene that had finally sorted itself out in my head. So I think I'm in pretty good shape. Gavin, who is our art director, has already done the cover for it, at least the art for the cover for it, not the layout. And Book 1 is not available in EPUB right now because I'm taking it away from Kindle and giving it to Smashwords. But I have to wait out the end of the agreement that I made with Kindle before I can do that. So Book 1 is available in print only, and it will be available in electronic version starting again in August, and then sometime before the end of the year, Book 2 will come out. Alder's World is set in the science fiction universe, and it is in the primer, but it is not involved in the corporations. There's an organization out there called the League of Planets that's sort of the UN or League of Nations of our science fiction universe, and they're involved in a lot of exploration and research. And Alder's World, the ship that they're on is called the LOP Duster, and it's kind of doing the Star Trek deep space exploration, boldly going. And they accidentally start a terraforming process. They didn't mean to do that. It was left by an alien technology, and it just almost destroys the ship. And book 1 is about that event, and then book 2 picks up with our survivors as they struggle on. It actually picks up 10 years after the first book. So that's Alder's World. And then we know that Kitty Sarkozy is working on a story in the science fiction universe about a man who grows up in a carnival and flees it to become an accountant instead of the other way around. That just cracks me up. Her name is escaping me. Help me, Tracy, Illinois. Katrina, thank you. Katrina is working on a story set way out in Codex 2, thousands and thousands of years in the future, with a race of cat-like people, I believe, but I don't actually know much about it. She said she's 10,000 words in, though, so we're excited to see some more. Okay, so now I think I've talked about everything in universe.
I think so.
Okay, so 2 things that are going on, actually 3 things that are going on. I have been saying for a while that Tracy and Gavin work for me. We made it official. They are under contract, so yay for Tracy and Gavin. Tracy is our editor/marketing director. She both edits books and does the marketing wizardry that I don't know how to do. And Gavin is just a kick-ass artist. He's our art director. He's built covers for 4 or 5 of our books now, and just does fabulous work. So they are official parts of Dryden House, which is my company. The other thing that I wanted to let folks know is going on out there is that Kitty Sarkozy, who's one of our authors, will have a suite at DragonCon in Atlanta, and she's going to throw a Dryden party, and we're going to have posters and books and either bookmarks or postcards with our material on it, and booze and snacks. She sent out an initial feeler on Facebook and got 8 or 10 responses. She said that it's pretty easy to get a party going at DragonCon, especially if you have booze available. So we're really looking forward to having a lot of fun that weekend. I would really love to get some other folks down at DragonCon, but I just don't think we're going to manage it. If somebody got enterprising and wanted to start a carpool down there or something, I don't know what I'd do. I'd be very happy and act in a supportive way.
You could always swing by and pick me up.
That's right. I'd have you stop by and pick Tracy up. She's in Kentucky.
I'm not really that far away, but I'm far enough away.
Right. And I'm just pinned down with my wife being ill and a baby in the house. There's no way I'm going to DragonCon. So, but that's very exciting, and we had this deal that came up this summer where Dawn got us a booth at Salmon River Days in Salmon, Idaho, which was totally unexpected and really kicked ass. And now we're going to be at DragonCon. So who knows where we'll be? The fish market days in Portland. Who knows? But it's really cool, and it really is a testament to the sort of the ability of all of us to work together and to believe in what we're doing and promote each other. Don didn't know any of us a couple of weeks ago, and yet he stood out there in the sun all day at a table, and now Kitty already had the suite and could have had the party for anything and decided to promote a whole bunch of authors and artists that she just met a couple of weeks ago. And that's just a blessing. I don't know where that comes from. That's fabulous. So props to Dawn and Kitty for that. And if you have inspirations about how to make the DragonCon party more partier, let us know. We'll almost certainly be right here on Google Hangout that night, laughing at Kitty as she gets increasingly tipsy.
Hey, I will buy booze and drink with her by via the internet.
That's right.
I'll get completely soused. I don't get completely soused. I get straight and sober again, but I can try.
And then after this meeting, actually, Damien and Tracy and I are going to carry on for a little while with a conversation about the website. One of the things that we desperately need is a way to coordinate our universes and to make information readily available. I actually ran a website with a wiki on it for a while and was mostly advertising Russian porn because someone hacked my wiki. But this week we did buy DrydenExperiment.com. We have a WordPress blog up, but it's not actually one we're hosting, which is giving me fits because WordPress doesn't want to let me do plugins and things. But we will be having a conversation this evening about how to get better sorted and have information better available at DrydenExperiment.com. That page is there now. It's a WordPress blog, pretty simple one. But we will be getting more sophisticated and intelligent because we've got Damien on it. And that's, that's moving up from where we were before. And that's everything that I had. Tracy, have I missed anything? How are we doing?
I believe that's it.
Okay.
You've covered everything that I know.
All right. And we
There's
did it.
a lot of things I don't know.
If you discount the time that we spent staggering around not sure what we were doing, we actually did it in an hour. So let's make sure that we've answered everybody's questions, that everybody's feeling oriented and knows what's going on, feels empowered to create new and exciting worlds. Don Knotts.
Don't forget, put all the information down below. Yeah. Hey, also put the link to the Google Docs for signing up for the Release Day Blitz Lorelei, You'll Never Die.
Link to Google Docs. All right. All right, and I will be in Manhattan at Boom Comics starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll be serving pizza and test playing Big Damn Dryden. Chelsea and Tim, I want to give you a special thanks for joining us tonight. I know it was your first time, and please know, we are just so honored to have people who want to get involved and want to try things. Tim, especially taking on a new role-playing set, especially one that's not finished. This is beta test, and there are going to be things that make no sense whatsoever. We really appreciate that. We think that's awesome. And Chelsea, what a stumble on your first day in Boom, and suddenly you're role-playing. Yeah, why not? That's awesome. But you are, as Dawn said, now part of the family. So feel free to just drop in on conversations, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. And hope that you really love your experience with Dryden. We're a pretty kick-ass bunch of people. I work with the hippest bunch of folks in the whole world. It's sort of naturally sorting. People who wouldn't want to work creatively and cooperatively look at what we're doing and go, ugh. So the people who do stick around, yeah, they're pretty hip. All right, I'm going to kill this broadcast. I do have a follow-up meeting tonight. Folks who want to hang around are welcome to do so. If you want to talk about other things in Dryden than the website, I might encourage you to start another hangout, or Damien and Tracy and I might move to another hangout, but we do need to have that conversation in time for Damien to get to bed. It's an hour later there than it is here. So I'm going to kill this, and you're welcome to hang around, but we'll be talking about web stuff immediately following. All right, well, thanks, everybody. This is the Dryden Experiment. This is my bright pink bedroom with the black polka dots, and have a great night.